What's up, YouTube fragrance fans everywhere? Thanks for joining me here on my channel, Steven Sturchill. What are we talking about, guys? We're talking about Lalique, Ombre Noir. So, or I guess you could say, is it? Anyways, I've been hearing about this frag for a while and didn't know much about it. Have seen it online, I think, at Fragrantica and Base Notes, maybe a couple other places as well. What I read sounded very, very good and very intriguing. And on the one hand, there's a lot going on with this fragrance, and on the other, there's not that much going on with this fragrance. And that sounds like an oxymoron, but we'll get into it here in a second. Again, the house is Lalique, and they're very famous for, I would say, a lot of French fragrances that, for lack of a better description, are sort of straddling the area between niche, true niche, and offbeat designer, or even in some cases mainstream designer sense, if that makes sense. So it's all very French, sort of very contemporary in general. Some of them, I would say, are reinterpretations of classic 20s, 30s, even 60s, whatever, 50s scents, but sort of retro modern, if that makes sense. Still done in a very contemporary way, but giving you sort of the abstract impression of, oh, what would this perfume have been like in the 1920s or the 30s or the 40s, so on and so forth, the 70s, whatever. I would say Lalique is really, really good value in general, and they have some really, really excellent, very refined scents. Where I would say Lalique falls down just a little bit, maybe in 2 to 3 areas, minor to medium level quibbles, is that, and again, this is just a gross generalization of the house. Obviously, they have heavy hitters. They have some not so popular scents that haven't done so well. I would say that a lot of their fragrances suffer to some extent from either somewhat poor longevity and sillage, with some exception, not Ombre Noir. That line is like a bazooka bomb in general, but also the strength of their fragrances may not be to some people's taste. What I mean by that is many of the fragrances, you smell it fine for about an hour, and then they really tend to die down to a somewhere between a scent bubble, very modest, and just a skin scent, often within just 2 to 3 hours of application. And I think for eau de parfum concentrations, it's not really that acceptable. So those are my little 2 quibbles. I guess my third quibble, if it's a quibble at all, is the fact that I think, and this goes for most houses that aren't really big multi-billion-dollar backed designer houses, it's hard for them to sort of pigeonhole or peg a fragrance that will catch fire in the same way that the best designer houses do, simply because there's a variety of factors. Number one, the big designer giants, they have more money to lock up a lot of aroma chemicals that simply either A, cannot be sold under any circumstances to competing houses, or that B, they will simply jack up the price so sky high that it's going to be really hard for them to make a sell and turn a profit, just in the sense that if you're not already known as an uber expensive couture line, it's going to be kind of difficult, not impossible, to convince the masses that all of a sudden, oh, we're worthy of 3 times the former price just because we say we are, and it's better ingredients and da, da, da. At the end of the day, guys, most of these smells from aroma chemicals smell approximate. I don't mean they smell identical, but let's face facts. If I'm a perfumer and I buy a not inexpensive set of ingredients, let's say middle of the road, very solid, very, very good. Maybe throw in 1 or 2 fairly elite aroma chemicals, quite expensive, just on the 2 or 3. So my whole matrix comes out not costing necessarily more than upper tier designer, let's say, lower tier niche, whatever, middle of the road niche, whatever. That as compared to something where I just go all in, and I'm buying the best ingredients money can buy, extremely expensive aroma chemicals. Yes, to the 2%, 3%, and 5% outer limit. And I'm only talking of fragrance lovers. I'm not talking about people in general. Out of fragrance lovers, only about maybe 3 to 5%, just ballpark, are going to actually smell that difference. And whether or not that will translate or mean that much to them, as opposed to forking over an extra £100 or $50 or $75 or $100, whatever that premium commands, or even $500 premium, let's say, for example, it's very debatable and it's very negligible. And at the end of the day, the other 98% or 95%, you're going to be just as content and blown away with the quality. Because I'm of the opinion that, don't get me wrong, I am all for the best ingredients, without a doubt. That's fine. But I'm sincerely of the belief that at the end of the day, if a formulation is superior to my competitors, then even if they're using better ingredients, someone may say, oh, that theirs smells slightly more natural, organic, da 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 da. But they may not like the scent nearly as much as mine. If mine is sexier and more mysterious, just more popular for whatever reason, it's fresher, it's crisper. I've got a juicier citrus that pops and fizzles and sizzles. I'm probably going to sell a lot more cologne, parfum, eau de toilette, whatever concentration I'm selling, I'm probably going to have a home run hit, and they're not. That's just end of story. Okay, with that long preamble, let's get into this frag. If you're still here, thank you so much. Okay, this is the guy. So I wanted to get a decant because I'm tired of messing up and buying big giant bottles, and I don't like the stuff. So Lalique Ombre Noir. When did this drop? This dropped in last year, 2017. Nose behind this is Corinne Dubreuil. I'm sorry, Dubreuil. I said that wrong. Karen Dubreuil. Top notes are bergamot, fig leaf, mint, then tobacco leaf, cinnamon, papyrus. Base notes are myrrh, olibanum, cognac, tonka bean, and cedar. Now, okay, I'm gonna preamble with the good, and then we're gonna get into the not so hot, and then we're gonna get into the really, really not so hot. Number one, I like the opening. I legitimately like the opening, but it's a bit mild for Ombre Noir lovers. It's just dialed back. It's dialed back 2 to 3 notches. So there's that. I like what's going on here with the spices. I've already applied here, so I'm not going to reapply. Yes, you can kind of get a hint of the cinnamon. I get quite a bit of the tobacco leaf, but it's competing a little too much, in a sense, with the myrrh and the cedar and the olibanum. And the papyrus gives it a slightly weird, dry, papery element that I'm not a huge fan of. I get the booziness on the opening from the cognac note. Tonka bean, could have been a lot stronger. But I like the opening. But now let's get into the not so hot. And by the way, online, a lot of people are saying this smells like garam masala. I would say there's a lot of truth to that. It's not identical by any means, but it's highly reminiscent in an abstract way of garam masala. If Ever had that? If you eat some Indian food and you'll have it. Um, I have a couple problems though with this fragrance. One is that the sweet, juicy, spicy, resinous aspects of this die down super quick on my skin. The power also dies down almost immediately, not quite, almost immediately. And what I'm left with is almost a dry, peppery. If you've ever smelled notes of ebony wood, I know that's in a couple of very interesting niche fragrances now that have been out in the market at least 2 to 3 years. Or Palo Santo, if you smell that, like a rosewood. This has that little dry, burnt smoke ember. Not a lot of smoke, that's not what I'm saying, guys, but it has that little faint aspect of like a powdery, dry, leftover rosewood or ebony wood. Just a little bit. And it's very soft on skin. Sits very, very close to the skin. And a lot of the notes just fade away into like not quite nothing, but an almost nothing blend that's just a little too vague for comfort. Yeah, I get a little bit of that fig leaf and mint on top right on the opening, but that's gone on my skin like in 20 minutes tops. And the fragrance I'm left with, quite frankly, although still okay, air quotes, is nothing to write home about. Ombre Noir just blows this away with the double barrel shotgun, at least in terms of resinous, juicy, effusive, just powerhouse type aroma. It may not be as complex, but the notes that are in Ombre Noir stay active on my skin so much longer than Ombre Noir that for me, in one sense, this is an almost near epic fail for Lalique. The opening of this scent, I don't want to say is the best I've ever smelled, but it's really, really good. And if they could just have amped up the resinous, juicy, spicy, aromatic aspects of this scent and given it just a bit more character, and furthermore, if it could last on skin at least 4 to 6 hours with really powerhouse, almost powerhouse projection, let's say. I understand they want to dial it back a little bit. I would be all over this fragrance, hyping it to the moon, to the sun, to the stars, letting my peeps know that this is a fantastic fragrance. Only unfortunately, they didn't do that. It's not, and I can't, and I won't. I will merely say it's interesting and pretty good for what it is, in air quotes. Having said all this, if you can't find it like on the cheap at a discounter, for me, this is a non-recommended, do not buy. But if you're just exploding with money out of your ears and you're just a hardcore Lalique fan and you think you'll like these notes, by all means, go ahead and pull the trigger. But I would still say start with a sample or buy a decant. You may be like myself, very, very disappointed. Again, it's not bad for about the first hour. And then after that, it's almost all but gone. I just get a very vague something or other on my skin. It's okay. I doubt too many people will smell it. And those that do probably won't inquire nor compliment you. It was my scent of the day. I worked with this scent. Not one person asked me what I was wearing. Not one person complimented me today. That's pretty rare when I wear or rock a new fragrance. I at least get like oh, I don't like that. What are you wearing? I don't like it. Even if they didn't like it, somebody will probably tell me they didn't like it. I got zero, nada, zilch in commentary. Not a great sign, honestly. Take it for what it's worth. Again, it's your money, it's your nose. You feel free to disagree with me. my feelings will not be hurt if you just love this and just praise it to the heavens, and it becomes your favorite fragrance in the whole wide world. Bravo. But on my skin, I'm telling you the truth, it died down so fast, so, became so faint on skin, just doesn't make anywhere near strong enough a statement. Notes became indistinct. That juicy, resinous, spicy opening disappeared in 15 to 30 minutes max on my skin, other than, of course, leaving a few minor nuances on the skin. Overall, pretty disappointing. I had a very, very high hopes and expectations. This carries a fairly, very high rating on Fragrantica. I think maybe Base Notes as well. I wouldn't give, if it were me, if it was Fragrantica, I would probably give this about a 2.6, 2.8 max, mainly based on performance issues and the way that the opening aspects die almost immediately on skin. Other than that, the opening itself is very nice for sure. It just doesn't stick around for the party. And at the end of the day, that's an epic fail in my book. But anyways, feel free to disagree. That's my 2 cents. That's going to do it. Sorry to not get any of you an update on when I was going to do this. Very late in the night or early in the morning, however you want to look at it. Anyways, catch me in the rebound, guys. Spray often, spray well. Live life on your terms, not someone else's. Love you guys. By the way, we've got a collab coming up. Chad from Gentleman's Journey was nice enough to have me in another collaborative video, I think for winter scents rotations, something like that. What are we doing for the winter? That should be airing any day now. Anyways, all the best. Love you guys. Thank you, Chad, again. I'll be hollering at you soon, brother. Peace out and Merry Christmas, guys. Have a great December. Love you.